Nyapa teman saya Yeni Mada.
Monggo.
Dia itu juga tertarik bukan tertarik, fokus dia juga termasuk punya perhatian juga di Indigenous religions, tapi mungkin dari sisi linguistiknya, Mas. Soalnya bahasa Pontianak. Halo Yeni.
Mbak Ida. Waduh. Ini tinggal menghitung hari nih Mbak di lembaga itu tadi. Kita mau hijrah.
Mau S3 ya?
Mau hijrah ke BRIN.
Oh gitu, oh iya. Jadi ke BRIN ya akhirnya ya?
Akhirnya ke BRIN.
Mbak Yeni Mada, perasaan saya kenal.
Nah pasti udah pernah ketemu kali.
Ya dong, kalau saya pasti kenal Mas Ancu. Kalau Mas Ancu belum tentu kenal saya.
Kayaknya kenal deh, jangan gitu dong.
Teman-teman, kita akan mulai dalam 1 menit lagi ya.
Oh oke, baik.
Terima
Mbak
kasih.
Ida, kangen Mbak Ida.
Okay, hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the opening session of the 3rd International Conference of Indigenous Religions organized by Intersectoral Collaboration for Indigenous Religion, Rumah Bersama. My name is Etika Filosofia from CRCS Gajah Mada University, and I will be the host for this session. This morning, we will have welcome speech from the committee, from the organizers, who will officially open this conference. And now is the time for Indonesian National Anthem. Thank you. The first speech is from the 3rd International Conference for Indigenous Religions. For Anna Sutomo, the time is yours.
Okay. Can you listen to me? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to all participants on this Zoom meeting. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone who joined us through CRCS YouTube channel. As the representative of the committee, I would like to welcome all of you to the third International Conference on Indigenous Religion. International Conference on Indigenous Religion is an annual conference, consists of researchers, academic, CSO, activists, practitioners, community members, as well as government. Considering the multidimensional problem that we are facing, which needs holistic approach, the theme for this year is Access to Justice, a call for literacies on interrelated issues and coalition of interrelated sectors. We will have 2 full-day online conference using Zoom and will be live streamed on 4 YouTube channel, namely CRCS UGM, Yayasan Satu Nama, Pusat Paramadina, and Komnas Perempuan. We are so happy to have Dr. Vandana Shiva as our speaker with her remarkable work on ecofeminism, which we can learn a lot later. We also have more than 40 panelists who will share their knowledge, ideas, experiences, and wisdom on the issue related to access to justice from different backgrounds from Indonesia as well as neighboring country. At the end of the conference, we will have the plenary session with 4 remarkable panelists, Professor Rebecca Elmhurst, Dr. Dewi Chandraningrum, Dr. Nia Siskawati, and Dr. Samsul Ma'arif. And finally, on the closing session, we will announce selected papers to be published on Journal Religio. This year, the conference organized by Intersectoral Collaboration for Indigenous Religion Rumah Bersama consists of CRCS UGM, Yayasan Satu Nama, National Commission on Violence Against Women, Majelis Luhur Kepercayaan Terhadap Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, Perempuan Penghayat Indonesia atau Puan Hayati, Pusat Penelitian Masyarakat dan Budaya LIPI, Indonesian Consortium for Religious Studies, University of Gajah Mada, Center for the Study on Religion and Democracy Pusat Paramadina, Institute for Javanese Islam Research, Islamic State University Tulungagung, Faculty of Law, University of Pancasila, the Directorate of Kepercayaan and Indigenous People, Ministry of Education, Culture, and Research, Study of Religion, Faculty of Usuluddin and Islamic Thought, Islamic State University Sunan Kalijaga, and Indonesian Association for Study of Religion ASAI, and partly supported by Oslo Coalition on Freedom of Religion or Belief, by YU, Law International Center for Law and Religion Studies, and Study on Religion, Islamic State University Sunan Kalijaga. To close this speech, I would like to say thank you to all participants. I hope you enjoy the conference and actively participating on the discussion for a stronger collaboration in the future. Thank you. Back to you, Etika.
Okay, thank you. To officially open the conference, I would like to invite the representative of Rumah Bersama. For Dr. Samsul Ma'arif, the time is yours.
Thank you, Etika. Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Rahayu. To the head of study program of religious studies, Faculty of Usuluddin and Islamic Thought, UIN Sunan Kalijaga, directors, head, and staffs of those supporting institutions, of those Rumah Bersama members, our special invited keynote speaker, all speakers of the plenary and parallel sessions, media, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We take a great pleasure to welcome you all in the third International Conference on Indigenous Religions. We are so thankful to our organizing committee due to their commitment, hard work, and smiles. This event might take place, bring people of different backgrounds, young scholars, researchers, activists, practitioners who work on different issues to share ideas and concerns. Thank you very much. We are very grateful to the study program of Religious Studies, Studi Agama-Agama, the Faculty of Usuluddin and Islamic Thought, UIN Sunan Kalijaga, the Oslo Coalition on Freedom of Religion and or Belief, BYU Law, the International Center for Law and Religious Studies, for their tremendous support on this conference. Their support have made this conference accessible to everyone interested. It is an honor to applaud the 14 institutions whose logos that everyone might see in our leaflet brochures. They are the organizers of this conference, whose representatives work collaboratively in Rumah Bersama ICIR. Ladies and gentlemen, Rumah Bersama, which literally means the house for everyone, is an idea and ideal to reach and achieve. It is an idea to develop a forum to create a space in which everyone is invited, welcomed, and apprised to share ideas and concerns of any kind, to discuss difficulties, challenges, as well as opportunities and strategies to deal with various issues and problems of life, ranging from human dignity, well-beings of any living beings, citizenship, democracy, to individual struggles. Rumah Bersama is an open house for everyone to engage various issues as interrelated, to engage the complexity as intersectional. It calls for literacy on interrelated issues, religions, gender, sexuality, environment, labor, disability, education, health, and so forth. It is again to invite everyone, wherever you come from, the academics, researchers, practitioners, officials, civil society organization activists, community members, to learn from one another and care for each other. Speakers, moderators, and participants, you are all the ones whom we mean as the people of Rumah Bersama. Let us together establish and develop our commitments to enduringly care for each other from now to the next through engagements in literacy on interrelated issues. Let us critically think, establish, and develop ways and systematic mechanisms to collaborate for a better life for every living being. Let us envision a critical mass, a coalition for all to access justice. That is the very theme of this conference, of this third conference on indigenous religion. Indigenous religion, the focus of Rumah Bersama, as we all know, is a conceptual category that refers to those who have historically experienced difficulties of life due to various projects of modernity, neo-colonialism, and capitalistic development. As a concept, indigenous religion is about marginalized, discriminated, and vulnerable groups. It is therefore about issues of any discriminated, marginalized, and vulnerable groups like women, youth, children, disabilities, minority groups, different gender identities, to mention some. Indigenous religion, we think, must thus be discussed and debated in relation to other issues, the way other issues should be discussed in relation to it. That is among the main reasons Rumah Bersama formulates the conference from the first one, which was on inclusive citizenship in 2019, the second one, which was on centering the margin in 2020, and this one, the third one, which is on access to justice, a call for literacy on interrelated issues and intersectoral collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, this annual conference is one of Rumah Bersama's programs and activities. The people of Rumah Bersama have coordinated and consolidated their individual and collective work for extensive outreach throughout the year. We continue working on establishing an effective mechanism for literacy of interrelated issues and intersectoral collaboration. As you all may realize, this conference will be followed up with CSO consolidation right after this conference. The consolidation would be facilitated and sponsored by the Directorate of Kepercayaan Terhadap Tuhan Yang Maha Esa dan Masyarakat Adat, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology. We expect to have an agreed mechanism through which our work next year and the following would be more effective in promoting access to justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to invite you all to officially open our third International Conference on Indigenous Religions. We expect that you all enjoy the conference. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rahayu, rahayu, rahayu.
Thank you. Now we will have performance from our friends, Masyarakat Adat Bayan from North Lombok.
Good morning, everyone. Soon you will watch 2 documentary videos coming from Bayan Indigenous community in North Lombok, West Nusa Tenggara. These videos were taken during program Peduli Intervention conducted by Yayasan Satu Nama in 2015 up to 2019. The first video is about a traditional dance called Kegerok Tanda, which means dancing together. Usually the dance is performed to welcoming guests, but initially it was performed to a special occasion, which was circumstance ceremonies. And the second one is also about a traditional dance called Mendewa. It is a dance combined with a flute performance. The dance usually is performed in a dry season, aiming to call for falling rain. So everyone, please enjoy the videos.
Pada cisan terbaik. Ding dong,
Thank you. To close this session, we already have Mrs. Rela Susanti from Puan Hayati to lead the prayer. Please, Ibu Rela.
Terima kasih, Mbak Etika. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan dan rahayu. Sebelumnya, izinkan saya Rela Susanti mewakili Puan Hayati membawakan doa dalam tata cara kepercayaan terhadap Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. Agungnya kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa, jembarnya kepada para leluhur bangsa, Ibu Agung Rama Angkasa, dehesnya kepada Ibu dan Bapak yang menjadi perantara kita lahir di dunia. Hari ini kita semua berkumpul secara online dalam acara The Third International Conference on Indigenous Religion. Kami memohon kepadamu Tuhan, semoga acara ini bisa berjalan dengan lancar dan tidak kurang suatu apapun. Dan semoga acara ini memberikan kebaikan bagi sesama. Un Rahayu, Rahayu, Rahayu. Back to Etika. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rela. We are at the end of this opening session. But before I leave the session, I would like to invite Dr. Zainal Abidin Bagir as moderator for the keynote speech. Dr. Zainal Abidin Bagir, teaching religion, science, and ecology, religion and human rights, and religion, state, and society at CRCS Gajah Mada University. He developed a program of diversity management school for CSO activists and academics, and fellowship of freedom of religion or belief for academics. He has also coordinated CSO Coalition on Religion Freedom and Coalition on Religion and Ecology. And now he is the director of ICRS, the consortium of 3 universities, Gajah Mada University, State Islamic University, and Duta Wacana Christian University. For Dr. Zainal Abidin Bagir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Etika. Good morning. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for those of you in different time zones. But here in Indonesia, it's 10 a.m. in the morning. And this is the very first session of our 3rd International Conference on Indigenous Religion. It is quite interesting that in the first conference 2 years ago, the issue discussed was mostly, though not exclusively, about recognition of indigenous religions, mostly on civil issues. And the context was, well, it was a kind of celebration of the new recognition after the decision of the Constitutional Court in 2017. And it was before the pandemic at the time. So we met so many people from many parts of Indonesia, as well as from other countries. So it was a very enjoyable and memorable conference. And last year, the issue has shifted. The title was centering the margin through intersectoral collaboration. And the focus was broader. And this year, justice is on the title of the conference. And we hope to have broader intersectoral collaboration, as well as literacy of issues which cross different areas of scholarship and activism. the issue of human rights, environmental issues, religions, economic, culture, which usually are treated in isolation, actually. And I think to have Dr. Vandana Shiva to be the first speaker in this conference is quite fitting. Dr. Vandana Shiva hardly needs introduction for many of us, but I will quickly introduce her. She started her higher education in science and then philosophy of science, and finished her doctoral degree in philosophy of physics. So it was an interesting shift, probably, to her activities now. In the last 4 decades or so, she has been known as a scholar and at the same time as activist on issues related to environment, agriculture, the issues of food, seed, how to protect native seed and promote organic farming, and fair trade, so many related issues. She has written also many books, articles, and speak in many prominent forums. She wrote the book, for example, The Violence of the Green Revolution. She has vehemently criticized GMO in many of her articles and books. And in the course of her scholarship and activism, she has also been known as a champion of ecofeminism. And when she speaks of ecofeminism, the issue of agriculture also figures in prominently. So very broad scholarship, activism, which is quite fitting for this, for our conference. So I think I will stop my introduction there. And I would like to invite Dr. Vandana Shiva. We have 2 hours, well, 90 minutes actually, 90 minutes. And it's up to you, Dr. Vandana Shiva, whether you will use 30 or 45 minutes for the opening lecture, and then we'll have plenty time, I think, for discussion, for questions and answers. So the floor is now yours, Dr. Vandana Shiva, please. I'm not sure whether any of the committee can let me know if she is around, because there are.
There you go, Pak Zain. The iPhone, the ID iPhone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've actually had to undertake an emergency trip, so I'm on my journey, and I can stop for half an hour, 20 minutes actually, 20 minutes for my talk, and 10 minutes for questions, because I must reach my destination. So it's an emergency travel I've had to make. I am not in my office, I'm not in my home, I'm doing this on my phone, en route. And I have other colleagues with me who are sitting and waiting in the car while I talk to you. So I seek your apologies to be short and brief, but to tell you that I'm with you in solidarity at this critical moment for human evolution. And I want to lay out the broad understanding that I have gained over these 50 years of both research as well as activism, of what is at the root of the multiple emergencies we face today, and how we can address them by regenerating our indigenous knowledges, including knowledges embodied in indigenous religions. Indigenous religions were all about our sacred relationship with the earth. All indigenous relationships saw humanity as part of the earth, saw the earth as mother, saw everything in the universe as interconnected, and therefore a non-violent approach to life on earth was the very basis of our existence. This was defined as backwardness, as primitiveness, and criminalized in very many circumstances. The introduction mentioned my work on the Green Revolution. I have been to Indonesia to support farmers who were arrested and jailed for having their own seeds, breeding their own crops. How can the sacred duty to work with the seeds of the earth be reduced to a crime in contemporary times? Just so a few companies that made chemicals, I call them the Poison Cartel, they are the Bayer and the Monsantos, the Dows and the DuPonts, the Syngentas, the BASFs, they came out of Hitler's labs. Their expertise was making chemicals to kill human beings. They then made these chemicals agri-chemicals. They changed agriculture. The Green Revolution was not green, and it was not revolutionary. It was war. And I discovered this in my own land, where Punjab, the most prosperous part of India, erupted in protests and violence. 30,000 people were killed in the early 80s. And I decided to study why was this most prosperous part so angry. Then I realized that the root of it was basically chemical warfare, continuing today in the name of modern agriculture. We then had colonialism to precede this. What was colonialism? Colonialism was a big theft of the resources of the third world. And I know my country, but I'm sure the history is absolutely similar for Indonesia. We are rich tropical lands. We grow biodiversity. Our wealth is biodiversity wealth. And that's why we were the heart of the spice trade. This is what the Europeans wanted. First, Columbus set out, and then it was the East India Company created. The Dutch East India Company was created for the spice trade and controlling the spice trade and the violence that it unleashed on Indonesia. The richness that the earth gave us was turned into the reason to enslave us. But it didn't just enslave our land and our resources. It led to a huge genocide, a huge killing. Amitabh Ghosh has just written this new book called Nutmeg's Curse, where he has talked about the island, your island, Banda, how everyone was exterminated for spice. But that also went hand in hand with the war against our relationships with the earth, our indigenous religions. So when you introduce me as ecofeminism, what is ecofeminism for me? Ecofeminism for me is basically recognizing that, quite contrary to the colonizers, quite contrary to the industrial mechanical mind, which was necessary for the conquest of the earth, you had to declare the earth as dead in order to own her. You had to declare the resources as valueless as long as they were with indigenous people in order to steal them and claim that you gave value. This idea of the dead earth meant that every culture that saw the earth as living, saw the earth as sacred, saw other beings as related to us, had to be destroyed. So it wasn't just a war on the land, it was also a war against our minds. It was a war against worldviews of relationships. Part of it was a dead earth assumption, constructed with a huge violence, whether it be the Bacons and it be the Descartes, or it be the Adam Smith, or it be the Locke's. All of the books that are taught in universities are really books that tell you give up your beliefs, give up your faiths, give up your indigenous religions. But another part of that assumption was a new inequality based on race, the color of our skin. It makes no difference. We are still human. We could be black or white. You could be red or yellow. It doesn't matter. The color of the skin doesn't take our humanity away. But the colonizers took humanity away and made the blacks the slaves, turned Indians into indentured labor. They also created a new hierarchy between men and women. A new capitalist patriarchy was created, declaring women as passive objects, who do no work, who have no minds, who are empty bodies, just containers for breeding. And this cosmology is what is at the root of violence against the earth, but also at the root of violence against women and violence against indigenous people. So the moment we are in today is a moment where, while indigenous people and indigenous faiths have been exterminated, the very extinction of our species is at stake if we do not resurrect our indigenous ways of seeing the world, living in the world, and regenerating the world. Indigenous religions have become central to the possibility of a future for the human species. We cannot allow marginalization anymore because the world needs our religions. We cannot be criminalized anymore because the crime that is taking place is a crime of ecocide, the war against the earth, continuing crimes of genocide. Every year, thousands of defenders of the earth are killed. Your own country has seen so much violence against indigenous people. Climate change is the result of the same worldview, where you denied that the earth can provide everything we need, then went deep down and mined her fossil fuels and have destroyed this planet's stability, ecosystem. Storms are coming all the time. Fires in the forest that are rainforests and are full of moisture, and should not be burning. Floods in deserts, landslides in our mountains. People are dying. Every day, people are dying because they've been denied food, even though the earth provides enough food, and our farming systems, your farming systems in Bali, our farming systems in the Himalaya, so sophisticated because they harvest every ray of sunlight and capture the carbon dioxide and turn it into food. This intensification of biodiversity in the spice gardens and in the multi-dimensional agriculture, in the biodiversity intensive farming, our research in Navdanya has shown it could feed 2 times the world's population. We don't have to have a single child die of hunger. My country, 21,000 children die daily for lack of food, even though there isn't a scarcity of food, there's enough food. But the unjust structural systems of colonialism claim to be economy. Colonialism, which claims to be science. You know, these words have been appropriated. Economy is the art of living. And this art of living is what the earth and nature has given us. The art of living is what indigenous people have excelled in. The art of living is what women have maintained in every society. In spite of wars, in spite of dispossession, in spite of displacement, in spite of marginalization. The art of living is oikonomia. Oikos, our earth, our home. Oikonomia, the art of living in the home, not of destroying her. That is chrematistics, the art of money making. Similarly, science to know means you must know the tree, you must know the plant, you must know the seed, you must know your river, you must know the earth, you must know your body. The denial that life is a living and it's a mere object that has to be treated as a machine, as dead earth, as inert raw material, is already a denial of knowledge. It cannot be science. You cannot know the living while denying its life. So ignorance is parading as knowledge and science. Theft is parading as economy, and honesty, truth, justice, peace requires a resurrection of our worldviews, our ways of life, where we tread it lightly on the earth with reverence, with love for all her beings, and solidarity in the human community. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to join you briefly in spite of the emergency I'm living through. And I'll stay back for 5-7 minutes for a few urgent questions that you might have.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dr. Vandana Shiva, for taking your time with us. And as you said, stating your solidarity with the cause of the conference despite your emergency. I haven't seen any question in the chat box, but I was wondering. Yeah, after probably the first question to continue your and to contextualize what you say. After decades of struggle in your activism, where do you see you are now? I mean, in Indonesia, we are speaking of increasing recognition of indigenous religions, for example. But the issue of lands, forests, environment in general are still among the hardest to advocate. Well, can you reflect from your own experience?
Well, I think what we have is two trends. We have a new militarized relationship growing. I mean, look at the lockdowns. Look at the fact that life has been brought to a standstill. Yeah. Look at the way a handful of people are deciding who can live and who must die. Look at the fact that just because South Africa identified the new mutant, that's all it did. There's an apartheid taking place to shut Africa out again on the basis of race. This is racism, not science. Yeah. So this trend is growing too. But on the other hand, ordinary people are waking up everywhere, everywhere. Ordinary people are realizing we cannot continue to deny that the earth is living. We cannot continue to deny that we are connected to the earth, that every problem we have, the pandemic to the destruction of the climate, are all related to the violation of the earth and her systems. And to understand earth systems, we have to go back to our indigenous knowledge and our indigenous religions. So I see that in a few years' time, that which was pushed underground will burst out in a huge resonance across the world. And that which was forced on us with violence will have to recede because its untruth is getting exposed by the day.
Okay, thank you. I have seen only one question on the chat box. You may be able to read it also, which tries to connect between your well, I introduced you as you were initially in philosophy of physics, your scholarship, and then now you speak about ecofeminism, indigenous religions, and others. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am very fortunate that you know, I studied physics because I wanted to understand how the world works. And I followed my inquiry to look at the world through quantum theory because I realized the mechanistic physics, the classical physics, is so inaccurate to explain the world. First, because it treats everything as inert and passive and immutable, unchanging. It treats everything as separate. And third, it treats everything as so different from each other that is in conflict and contest. There's a mutually excluded middle. And quantum theory resonated much more with my own perception, and the principles of quantum theory that are also shared principles of all indigenous knowledge systems, all ecological.
Sorry, Dr. Vandana Shiva, you're muted. Sorry, someone probably muted you.
Sepertinya freezing, bukan
Freezing,
muted,
bukan mute.
Yeah, probably the connection is going bad.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're still muted, Prof. Dr. Vandana Shiva.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So everything is potential. Second, everything is related. You cannot disconnect. My thesis was on hidden variables and non-locality in quantum theory. Non-locality means an action here will make a difference to an action millions of light years away. Everything is connected. Non-separation, not separation. Third, the idea was of mechanistic physics was, I know exactly what this particle is. I know exactly where it'll move. And therefore, I can predict with total certainty an outcome of a process. Quantum theory has uncertainty as an essential quality. Hidden variables were an assumption that maybe if we find some variables instead of probabilities, we will get determinism. And my thesis was building on the work that shows you can never have determinism in quantum theory. Just like you cannot have determinism in the world, life is uncertain. Preparing for an uncertain life is becoming more human because you give yourself a chance to adapt, to evolve, to adjust. Fourth principle, there is no excluded middle. There's nothing like you're either with me or you're against me. Yeah, and if you're not like me, then you're my enemy. No, there is no excluded middle, and or together in quantum theory. And this is what indigenous religions see. They understand everything is potential. They understand everything is connected. They understand that uncertainty is the nature of evolving systems. Yeah, there's potential in the making, which is not totally deterministic, but that doesn't prevent it from unfolding. And finally, compassion and tolerance, because there is no exclusion. Inclusion and compassion are part of no excluded middle. And I wish you the best for your conference. I will now take your leave, and I look forward to continuing to work together on these important issues and other ways. This was my little gesture to show solidarity with you in spite of all the difficult circumstances. And I'm glad it all worked. I'm sorry for taking less time than you had expected, but I'm sure your discussion will continue on these important topics. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Vandana Shiva. And as you said, hope we'll continue our communication and collaboration.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay, so we have time now to continue this discussion. What do you think, Mas Ancho? There have been some, actually points to discuss. There is Pa Safrin Salam, who just actually posed a question. But well, probably since there's no one to answer that, we may also discuss it. It's up to you, Mas Ancho. How are we going to go now? We still have an hour actually.
Yeah, yes, Vasan, thank you. participants and everyone. With thanks to the presence of Vandana Shiva, I think she gave us a very tremendous ideas of what we basically envision for this conference. The non-separable, the intersectionality, interrelated things. And I think that what we could elaborate for us, to see what we can do. And if we're thinking, for example, to engage movement, like social movement, I think that is what we are trying to promote. Let's come together, see ourselves as potential to contribute, and everyone else as potential to contribute. And yeah, that is what we have learned from indigenous people, indigenous religions, ideas, to engage. So, Pak Zain, I'm so thankful that Vandana Shiva was there, starting our conference, giving us a very big ideas, to engage. And that is what we probably could learn from ecofeminism for us to develop more, to engage. So in this way, indigenous religions, feminism, ecofeminism, including freedom of religion and belief, I think should take that into account very seriously, looking religion as not exclusively, but understanding religion as connecting one another, each other. That is what I learned from this, Pak Zain. And I think we can invite everyone, to contribute to that point.
Yeah, more specific issues like ecofeminism will be discussed also in later sessions in this conference. Well, I have seen here also, other speakers actually for later sessions. There is Devi, for example. If you want to comment on Vandana Shiva's thought and its relevance to Indonesia, for example, you are welcome. Otherwise, yeah, anyone who wants to comment on what we have, half an hour conversation with Vandana Shiva.
Probably Pak Ruslan. Oh, there is Melanie also.
Yeah.
So if I could raise question to discuss in relation to Pak Ruslan question about regulation on ecofeminism. I mean, for me, if we take Vandana Shiva's thoughts, like what she just said, here in Indonesia, we have some regulations, at least from the ministry's regulation, that basically recognizes the, the earth. I remember one regulation from the Ministry of Environment, respecting local wisdom, which include respecting sacred space, sacred place. And to me, I mean, if I relate that to the ideas that Vandana Shiva was saying, that is a kind of acknowledgement about or on land, on earth, as sacred, as living, as potential to contribute. And so if we could take that into account to reconsidering the way we see, human nature relations, and that would probably, I think, contribute very significantly to ecofeminism, to regulate which is to recognize the existence as subjects, as persons. And we could learn from Ecuador, for example, in their constitution, which include earth as a subject of law. And that is also what we learn from New Zealand, recognizing the river. I forgot the name of the river, Pak Zain. But as a subject, you know, that could be represented in the court, you know, to be protected, cannot be contaminated or destroyed. And so we have, I think, that regulation that we could develop, you know, to explore the ideas for us to think, you know, ecofeminism as a perspective for our regulation development, to regulate development. Yeah, that's what I could think for this issue.
Yeah. Okay, and anyone else who wants to join in the conversation? So it should not be a question, it should be a comment.
Yeah, it is by the people of Maori, but I forgot the name of the river. And
I think the name of the river is Te Uruwera.
Te Uruwera, yes.
I think.
Yeah, and also Ganga, Ganga River of India has been also recognized as a subject of law. If Aruslani can make comments on that, Pak Zain?
Yeah, who is?
Pak Safrin, sorry, Pak
Safrin.
Safrin. Pak Safrin Salan. Oh,
Yes.
And there is also another challenging question here, Pak Zain, from Milani.
Yeah. Yeah. But Melanie, if you want to say something about your question, again, we don't have anyone to answer, but yeah, you may share your reflection also on the issues we just discussed.
Okay, thank you, Pak Zainal dan Pak Samsul Ma'arif. I'm sorry I cannot open my camera because I have worse connection lately. And I think my questions are based on the realization that we don't have much power in our regulations to save or to protect the indigenous people, indigenous religion, indigenous person, indigenous culture, and so on and so on. And therefore, the questions in chat room were raised by, over my couple of weeks reflection that I think we might should join in a bigger or in a broader movement of how to make ecocide as the 5th international law, probably when, in my opinion, probably when the ecocide is, can be the 5th international law, then it will follow by other regulations by countries in this earth. And I think that it will give a positive impact to our local regulation, to our mind, to our perspective about the earth, about the environment, and so on. So maybe for all over these years, for decades, we have been facing so many distractions, and I don't think that we are winning our land, winning our earth and winning our oceans back. Nevertheless, we are lose more. And we all know about that. And indigenous culture, people, land are more vanished more and more. So that is my opinion. Maybe we should move in solidarity with bigger movement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Melanie. Okay, anyone else who wants to join the conversation? Please. You may raise your hand virtually so I can see you.
I thought Ravinjay would comment.
I don't have any comments right now. Just listening and taking it all in at the moment. Thank you, though, for the opportunity.
Thank Pak Zain. I want to
Yeah.
share a little. I had a small chat with Vandana Shiva about solidarity. In
Okay.
solidarity.
Sure.
She has a very big, I mean, what she told me, I was asking that too. Because she was just mentioning under her name when emailing me, in responding my emails. So after her name in solidarity. So I was curious too about it, and then asked her to a little, to tell me a little. And what she said is basically is that it is in solidarity for all living beings, to what we eat, to what we drink, to what we breathe. So solidarity includes not only human people, but that is also very important. Our differences are more explored than what we can share. And so if I could ask, because Bu Melanie is a pendeta, is a pendeta. If we take this to the religious issues, in which we see ourselves different, very different because of our religious affiliation, can we engage the differences and transform the differences into not making it uniform, but taking the differences as a way of engaging solidarity, meaning we share things to live with, we share things to eat, to drink. And again, as Vandana Shiva shared her idea with me, that in solidarity is with everything that is surrounding us, no exclusion, and so no separation. And so can we see like religious diversities as interrelated, and so could engage together for movement against the ecocide?
So broader understanding of solidarity. It's not only solidarity between movements or groups or human beings, but also, with everything actually, which we eat, grow.
That's what she told me. Look at what you eat, how much you throw away from what you eat, how much you throw away from what you wear, clothes. So the engagement of solidarity reached to that point. I mean, in her perspective, in her engagements. So, I mean, coming from Islamic background, Pak Zain, it reminds me about a verse in the Quran that says, "Rabbana ma khalaqta hadha batila," that nothing is useless in this world. They all contribute. to the living. And so we need to take that seriously in engagement for life. But I think like what we pursue, at least in this conference, is how to take that perspective into practical work for movement. Joining in solidarity by joining in solidarity. So it is like the perspective, it is like the base of movement, but also the objective, the goal, like where to go. The movement to go to where we can see life for all, for every vulnerable groups and for human and nature well-being. Am I saying like too?
Yeah. Well, if there's anyone who wants to share further, okay, Nurdin, Nuruddin, please.
Yes. Can you hear me, Prof. Zainal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to add a comment to Miss Milani. I think about COP26, I think Vandana Shiva has discussed on spirit occasion about this issue. I think Vandana Shiva criticized COP26 because, according to Vandana Shiva, COP using the paradigm of economy, not ecological paradigm, because COP and also, for example, a Kyoto Protocol are built on the principle of emission trading. Vandana Shiva using emission trading, not emission stopping. So it's about economy, not about ecology. So according to Vandana Shiva, this will continue the destruction of our Earth. So according to Vandana Shiva, we must move from economic logic to the ecological logic. And for Vandana Shiva, that the more effective solution is to reduce greenhouse gas with the solution from about the economy of nature, based on Aristotelian logic. Economy is art of living, not economy as an art of making money. So I think Vandana Shiva has criticized COP. That's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's very valuable. I also did some search, and yeah, her statements are quite interesting. I mean, on issues like this, and as usual, it's rather unusual, actually, her statements on issues like this. So it seems like it's a good thing, but actually there are many things which can be criticized from initiative by the global leaders on climate change. Okay, there is Pak Hadi Prajoko, who has something to say on this issue as well. You may open your mic, Mas Hadi or Pak Hadi.
Yes, I agree. It would be great to see or to hear voice, to see face and hear voice. Pak Hadi. Where is Pak Hadi? And Padoli.
Yeah, Mas Fadoli has been commenting, but Mas Fadoli.
I have trouble with mic. And so can only comment.
Yeah, Mas Fadoli, you may open your mic. You raised question, but yeah, I don't know to whom, but I think don't expect answers. So we'll just have discussion together.
Pak Zain, do you mind
Yeah.
if I read Pak Hadi's questions and then
Sure.
ask you to make comments on his questions? I know you have a lot to comment on this. So freedom of religion, belief and religion in democratic system in Indonesia, especially government policies, are still far from expectations. And the hardest hit are indigenous people and traditions who still adhere to their ancestral religion, being the most crushed in a sense of justice with the condition of indigenous people whose belief systems are oppressed, especially women in participating in upholding spiritual justice. It is difficult to hope for the future with the democratic system developed in Indonesia, which is implemented by the government. Pessimistic. Religious, yeah, freedom of religion. We have the constitution guaranteeing that, but so how to comment on that, Pak Zain?
Yeah. Well, I think Mas Ancu would also agree. You can see the current situation as really bad, that the system doesn't allow the policies, the law, etc. It doesn't allow more space for indigenous communities. But as a matter of fact, I think if you see it in the longer historical period, I think you have to be optimistic in the sense that, well, you may go back even to the colonial time, during the Dutch colonialism, and then the several political regimes in Indonesia after independence. And what we have seen today, I think it's not, you probably could not expect this to happen like 10 years ago. It is interesting that we have had 3 international conference on indigenous religions, a term which did not even exist. I mean, the term indigenous religion before, but it has been part of the discourse now. So I see this as actually a progress. We may aspire or expect better things to happen. But again, if you compare it with what happened in the past, I think what we have seen is a series of progress. Many problems still, of course, but if we could make progress in the past years or decades, why not in the coming decades? So Mas Ancu, of course, will have more to say on this.
Yeah, I think very much like that, Pak Zain. I think the conference that we are doing or we have like right now is to, because we see opportunities to engage. So we have the government, we have regulations, but they are, of course, they should be seen as not static. Government's officials are people. They may change, they could change, and we have seen that there are many of them who could work with us together, you know, for this. Regulations, of course, are changeable, are transformable. We can transform that, but of course, I think our expectation or our optimism must be with work. movement. And so from that, the people's positions of people are very significant for this. We are gathering to think of, as I said in my remark, to think of a coalition, to think of a critical mass. Movement could start from the movement. Change could start from the people. Movement could even determine where to go. And so, yeah, and I think from that, we can learn from feminist movement, from gender movement, gender perspective. We also learn how much they have reached. And so, but then we could probably hear from them, you know, like their struggles, what they have made, you know, to create expectation or hope, because they have done not very, there's still many to work, but they have achieved a lot that we could, you know, explore more, I mean, develop more.
Yeah, okay. Anyone who wants to respond to Mas Anjo? What can we learn from other movement, like in this case, women's movement in Indonesia? The topic of this conference, it has collaboration as part of the title, intersectoral collaboration. So I think that is partly what is meant. How do we also learn from other movements? So anyone who wants to share on that issue, please.
Mas Heri tadi membuka. Mungkin dari Komnas Perempuan boleh berbagi.
Ada Pak Nahei, silakan Pak Nahei.
Pak Nahei. Enggak Pak Kiai. Pak Kiai bukan Pak Kiai perempuan ya, Pak Kiai dari Komnas Perempuan. Saya tadi hampir salah Pak Nahei. Pak Kiai. Pak Nahei. Adakah?
Apa masih ada beliau? Tadi ada.
Oh,
sudah ada sepertinya.
Ada masih. Ada masih Imam Nakhai. Nah, itu beliau.
Oh.
Sinyal saya kurang bagus, mohon maaf.
Ya, silakan, Pak.
Cukup.
Boleh berkomentar tadi salah satu pertanyaannya, apa yang bisa kita pelajari misalnya dari gerakan perempuan untuk isu-isu seperti yang terkait dengan penghayat atau agama lokal ini. Apa ada refleksi yang bisa disampaikan, Pak?
Iya, seharusnya yang memiliki pengalaman batin dan sejarah berkaitan dengan penghayat Teh Dewi tentu saja. Tapi sayang beliau masih belum masuk di sini. Menurut beberapa informasi yang disampaikan oleh Teh Dewi dan kelompok-kelompok penghayat pada umumnya, kelompok perempuan penghayat ini kerentanannya sangat-sangat berlapis ya. Perempuan-perempuan pada umumnya saja dalam katakanlah yang secara sosiologis mayoritas dan diakui dalam tanda petik oleh negara itu masih dalam posisi yang rentan. Apalagi masyarakat adat yang mengalami diskriminasi yang berlapis, terutama berkaitan dengan hak-hak dasar mereka, terutama hak berpendidikan, hak untuk mengembangkan diri, hak untuk beribadah, dan juga hak untuk ikut serta di dalam ruang politik dan publik lainnya. Itu tentu mereka mengalami kesulitan-kesulitan. Ini karena secara sosial dan administratif mereka masih mengalami diskriminasi. Oleh karena itu saya kira ke depan membincangkan hak-hak perempuan adat dan juga menarik mereka ke dalam ruang publik yang lebih luas, terutama pasca pengakuan MK terhadap keberadaan agama leluhur, bahwa mereka juga sebagai agama yang sah sebagai warga negara, sebagai bahagian dari agama-agama di Indonesia. Saya kira perjuangan untuk menarik mereka ke ruang publik, mengenalkan siar-siar agama leluhur menjadi satu hal yang sangat penting. Dan ini saya kira sudah dilakukan oleh kawan-kawan UGM dengan ICIR-nya itu. Saya kira itu, dan Komnas Perempuan tentu dengan kajian-kajian yang sangat kaya di Komnas Perempuan, terutama berkaitan dengan indigenous people, termasuk di dalamnya adalah indigenous religion. Saya kira ini bisa dikolaborasikan data-data yang ada untuk perjuangan bersama kawan-kawan untuk menarik atau menghapus diskriminasi dan kerentanan berlapis yang dialami oleh khususnya perempuan adat. Terima kasih Pak Zainal. Bagir, mohon maaf tidak sempat membuka kamera.
Ya, terima kasih banyak Pak Nahai. Jadi itu yang disampaikan tadi soal kerentanan yang berlapis. So Pak Imam Nahai, who is a commissioner at the National Commission on Violence Against Women, yeah, he mentions about multiple layers of vulnerability when speaking about women, indigenous women, or the women in the indigenous communities. Yeah, and the struggle now is how to to raise the awareness, the knowledge of more people about the existence of these communities, including the women. I think that is a good point, which well, many points in this sessions, actually, I'm sure it will be brought up again in the later sessions. So I think I will close this session now. We still have some time, but maybe the committee will give an announcement about what is going to happen next. I think the next session will be at 1, right, Mas Ancho? And but yeah, there have been a few points raised in this session by the short but powerful speech from Dr. Vandana Shiva about the issues about connections between different issues, between beliefs, but also and then environment, agriculture, politics, and in the end she also responded to a question about quantum physics and indigenous religions, which are very important. That her understanding of quantum physics help them to also help her to also understand the worldview of the indigenous worldview, which is everything is interconnected. Life is uncertain, non-determination and not determination. No excluded. Whether there are the middles. She doesn't agree. She didn't agree with the law of non-excluded middle, but she says there's compassion instead of exclusion, and how actually this understanding from quantum physics may also help understanding the indigenous worldview. So yeah, we have been speaking about agriculture, about environment, about physics, about worldview, ecofeminism, of course, And we'll continue this discussion in later sessions. So I've written the microphone to the organizer who may have announcement about the later sessions, please.
Thank you Pak Zen, Mbak Etika, mungkin sudah ini lagi. Makasih banyak Pak Zen.
Ya, sama-sama.
Saya kira Bapak Ibu semua participants. Oh, Mbak Dwi mau nyampein sesuatu.
Okay, thank you everyone. I think that this session is already finished. Then we will join again at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, and see you again.
Yeah, thank you Mbak Dewi. Saya mau ini aja. Saya kira apa tuh yang disampaikan Mbak Dr. Shiva, Vandana Shiva, itu ada di YouTube. Tampaknya ia akan bisa kita jadikan sebagai rujukan untuk bisa kembali lagi, terus merefleksikan selama kita berkonferensi. Tentu ada beberapa hal yang bisa kita kritik atau kembangkan, tapi ya sebagai maksudnya, diantara maksudnya adalah dan saya kira sangat tepat yang dia sampaikan, upaya kita dari konferensi ini adalah bagaimana supaya kita saling bersambung. Nah, gagasan-gagasannya yang ada di speech-nya bisa kita lihat terus-menerus di video gitu, and so kita bisa kunjungi di mana Mas Mahrus? Di YouTube-nya CRCS yang akan terus ada di sana. Bisa kita terus-menerus melihatnya. Begitu semuanya Bapak Ibu semua. Terima kasih juga Pak Zen sekali lagi, panitia. Sampai ketemu di sesi paralel. Nanti boleh dipilih yang mana akan lebih nyantol di hati di jam 1 sampai jam 5 sore ya. Sip. Halo Mbak Alim, baru muncul ya. Tadi banyak pasti dia komentarnya.
Makasih. Insya Allah siap bergabung nanti di sesi berikutnya.
Oke deh. Tadi menarik sekali Mbak. Oke teman-teman semua, makasih banyak. Sampai ketemu ya.
Ya, sampai ketemu.
Sampai ketemu Pak Zain. Ya.
Salam.
Salam semuanya.
Izin lab.
Ya, jangan lupa kembali.
Siap.
Mohon maaf Pak Yai, sampai ketemu nanti ya.